Umaga Pilipinas. Good news Monday po tayo. Masaya po namin binabalita na mahigit 10 milyon na po or 10,065,414 na ang total doses administered as of June 27, 2021. Ito po ay ayon sa National Vaccination Operations Center. At kaninang umaga ay nagkaroon po ng ceremonial vaccination reaching 10 million jabs sa lungsod po ng Valenzuela. At ang average daily administered doses natin sa nakaraang 7 araw ay nasa 236,867 doses. Tiwala tayo na maabot natin ang 500,000 daily vaccination rate nating target basta patuloy ang pagdating ng supply ng bakuna sa bansa. Gandaan po hindi kumpleto ang kalahati. Kailangan natin kumpletuhin ang 2 dose ng bakuna para sa pinakamalakas na proteksyon. Another good news po, dumating kagabi, linggo, June 27, ang 249,600 doses ng Moderna vaccine sa Pilipinas po. 150,000 doses ito ay binili ng pamahalaan, samantalang ang 99,600 doses ay binili ng pribadong sektor. Habang 1 milyong doses ng Sinovac naman po dumating kanina umaga, nakita ko pa yan. Dumadaan sila ng Katipunan habang ako'y papunta ng opisina. Ito na po ang pang-5 batch ng Sinovac na na-deliver ngayong buwan ng Hunyo. Nasa 6.5 million doses ang dumating ngayong buwan ng Hunyo. Sumang total, nasa 12 million doses ang Sinovac vaccine na ang dumating sa bansa. Sa ngayon, may 5 COVID-19 vaccine brand na ang nasa ating supply inventory. Ito po ang Sinovac, ang AstraZeneca, ang Sputnik V, ang Pfizer at ang Moderna. Nasa mahigit 17 milyon or 17,455,470 na po ang dumating na bakuna as of June 28 ayon sa NTF. COVID-19 update naman po tayo. Ito ang ranking ng Pilipinas sa mundo ayon sa Johns Hopkins. Nananatiling number 24 po tayo pagdating sa total cases. Bumaba naman po tayo sa ranking. Naging number 27 tayo sa active cases. Dati po 24 din tayo. Number 131 po tayo sa cases per 100,000. At nasa number 90 po tayo sa case fatality rate na nananatiling 1.7%. Mayroon tayo pong 6,096 na mga bagong kaso ayon sa June 27, 2021 datos ng DOH. Nagpapasalamat po kami muli sa ating mga medical frontliners. At napakataas na pa rin po ng ating recovery rate. Ito po ay nasa 94.5%. Nasa 1,321,050 na po ang bilang ng mga nag-recover. Samantala, malungkot namin binabalita na nasa 24,372 na po ang binawian ng buhay. Nakikiramay po kami sa mga naulila. Puntahan naman po natin ang kalagayan ng ating mga ospital. Sa National Capital Region po, 45% po ang utilized na ICU beds, 39% po ang ginagamit na isolation beds, 32% po nagagamit na ward beds, at 32% po ang nagagamit na ventilators. Sa buong Pilipinas, 57% po ang mga ICU beds na nagagamit, 47% ang mga isolation beds na nagagamit, 44% ang utilized ward beds, at 37% naman po ang mga ventilators na nagagamit. Dito po nagtatapos sa ating briefing. Pero unahin na po natin si Makati Mayor Abigail Bingnay tungkol sa nagba-viral na video na di umano ay ang pagturok po ng bakuna na hindi daw po naibigay yung bakuna. So, Mayor Abigail Binay, my kapatid, please, the floor is yours.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. We acknowledge the video. It was human error on the part of the volunteer nurse. Volunteer po siya na nurse. That was immediately corrected. This happened June 25 and June 26, bumalik po siya sa aming tanggapan at pinakita po ang video at nakita naman po na hindi ho nga siya nabakunahan kung kaya't binigyan ho siya agad ng bakuna. So we simply ask for understanding from the public. Mahigit 1 taon na pong naghihirap at nagtatrabaho po ang ating mga frontliners para ho mabigyan po tayo ng para ho labanan itong pandemya na ito. Umaapela po kami sa mga nagkakalat ng video at nagbibintang ng kung ano-ano sa kawawa pong nurse na ito. Wag naman po ganon, lalo na at wala naman po tayong hawak na ebidensya. Ang nakakalungkot rin po dito ay syempre mag-e-election na po next year at Ang iba pong nagkakalat ng video ay tuwang-tuwa sa na nangyari at ginagamit po itong paraan para po siraan ako at siraan po ang vaccination program ng Makati. Pero hindi ho nila nakikita na ang vaccination rollout ng buong Pilipinas po ang maaapektuhan kung sisirain po nila ang kredibilidad ng vaccination po natin. Maawa naman po kayo sa nurse na nagkusang loob na nag-volunteer para sa kanyang oras para lang po magsilbi sa ating mga kababayan. Tao lang po ang ating frontliners, napapagod, nagkakamali. Pero mahalaga po na itinama namin agad ang pagkakamaling ito at humihingi po siya at kami ng patawad at nagbibigay din po kami ng assurance na hindi na po ito mangyayari muli. Maraming salamat po.
Well, Mayor Abby Binay, I assure you po no, that your opposition in Makati will have to do a lot more para siraan po yung vaccination ninyo dahil ang aking dating bufete po ay nasa Makati at nakita ko po na yung aking mga dating mga kasama ay sila po ay talagang nabakunahan na lahat. No? At saka mga kababayan, no, tignan naman po natin, naka 10 million jobs na tayo at ito naman po ay isolated case talaga on the part of an overworked na volunteer pa na frontliner. So I'm sure the people will understand po. Kasama rin po natin ngayon for more Good News Monday ang ating ambassador to Canada, si Attorney Rodolfo Robles. Dahil po sa time difference ay tinape po namin ang aming panayan kay Ambassador Robles. Ito po ang aking naging conversation. Ang ating ambassador to Canada, wala pong iba kundi si Ambassador Rodolfo Robles. Ambassador, meron ata tayong mga magandang balita no, tungkol sa bakuna dyan po sa Canada. Ano ba ho itong magandang balita na ito? The floor is yours, Ambassador Robles.
Salamat, Secretary Harry. Salamat. At I'll be given a chance to explain what's going on in Canada with respect to vaccines. Let me start what's on the table. Right now, Canada has a contract of about 180,000 doses. And considering that they are about 40,000, even if they get double, they'll have an excess of about 100,000 doses. And I had the Philippines listed among those who are interested to get the excess of Canada. But there's another aspect I would like to add, if I may. There's the manufacturing aspect, which I will explain a little later if you will be interested to know about it.
Tuloy po. Okay lang po. We would be interested to hear about
Okay.
it. Clarification lang po.
Okay.
Is it 180 million doses or 1,000 lang po talaga?
Yes.
180 million doses.
Million.
Okay po. Go ahead po.
Yes, 180 million doses, and they are about less than 40,000 in population.
40 million.
So,
40 million po in
Yes.
population. Okay.
yes. So that means we'll have about 100 million doses as an excess from Canada. And we are being listed among those who are interested to partake of the excess of the 100 million.
Kailan po kaya sila magkakaroon ng desisyon?
Well, ngayon they expect to have a full vaccination of everybody by the middle of the fourth quarter. So before the end of the year, we will know already how many excess Canada will have. And I am really watching with an eagle eye on the prospect of getting some excess directly from Canada.
Okay. Yung possibility po of manufacturing, ano po itong possibility?
Oh, yes, it's very important because as early as January, I already contacted a company, they call it Medicago in Canada. When Canada the delivery of vaccine in Canada was being delayed, they started to have their own, and they started funding this Medicago. So I called them up, and we had an exchange of views, and immediately they sent us a NDA, or the non-disclosure agreement. But right now, it's still in the hands of DOST. And I just called them up this morning to ask what's the situation, because with that, we can start negotiating more formally after getting that NDA approved by the Philippine government. through those to DOST and I think AITF also. So I expect that to be proceeding faster as soon as I get the confirmation.
So itong possibility po ito, may posibilidad na joint venture ba ho ito manufacturing with a Canadian company pero dito po sa Pilipinas?
The situation is like this. They have now a factory in Quebec City, and they will be establishing 2 or 3 in different countries of the world. I think they have already contacted Germany for that purpose. And I offered our pharmaceutical ecozone in Bulacan, I think. And I gave them all the perks of having it manufactured in the Philippines, like taxes, free capital importations, and the like. So, but I cannot talk to them now because there's no NDA yet. But we are registered. I talked to the CEO already, and we are still a negotiation in progress right now.
Okay.
But as soon as I get the NDA from Manila, then I can proceed more rapidly about this matter.
Kayo ba ho, Ambassador, in your family, have you been vaccinated in Ottawa?
I have my first, and in a month's time, I hope I'll have the second.
I see.
Canada, I think right now they have about 67% of their population already vaccinated, but the double vaccination is about only 29%. But by the end of the third quarter, they said we'll be fully vaccinated, everybody. And so that's the time the excess will be counted.
Okay. Well, that's good news po, and thank you very much for starting the week with this new good news. Thank you very much, Ambassador Rodolfo Robles.
Thank you also, Harry. Thank you very much. Even we meet after so many months, we meet now in this digital space. Thank you.
Thank you. Kasama rin po natin ngayon ang Sulu Governor Abdussakur Tan at si Ahod Alhaj Murad Ibrahim. Siya po ang Interim Chief Minister ng Bangsamoro Transition Authority. Kaya po natin sila inimbita, nung Webes po ay nagkaroon po ng pangalawang mga pagpupulong ang Presidente dito po sa dalawang panig, no, tungkol po doon sa posibleng extension ng transition para Nako, wala rin si Yusek Roque. Okay, ang tanong po ni Laila Salaveria na Inquirer, what is now the President's position on the extension of the institutional life of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority after the meeting in Malacanang last week? What consensus, if any, was reached with Congress and BARM leaders? Gaya po ng aking sinabi, ang Presidente po decided to become neutral and will allow Congress to fully discuss the matter and to decide accordingly, respecting the plenary powers and wisdom of Congress. Ang sabi ko ni Presidente, talaga namang may punto ang parehong panig. Doon sa panig ng deferment o yung pagpapahaba pa ng transition, mahirap nga daw magkaroon ng election po kasi wala pa silang Omnibus Election Code doon sa BARM at wala pa pong batas para sa redistricting, no? Pero sa panig naman na dapat mag-eleksyon, importante magkaroon ng mandato ang lahat ng mga political leaders natin, no? Para naman meron silang moral authority to lead. Kaya iniwan na po ni Presidente sa Kongreso ang desisyon. Next question po kay Laila Salaveria. Based on current figures, are restrictions likely to be eased in NCR Plus in July? Today po ang meeting natin ng IATF para sa mga quarantine classifications. So again, I will not prejudge. Pero sa tingin ko po ay GCQ po ang ating current quarantine classification sa Metro Manila, siguro po mahirap po magbago ng classification as of now. Okay? Meron na ba tayong Zoom? GovTan is ready, I think. Governor Abdusakur Tan, the floor is yours. Nako, wala pa rin po. Okay, Yusek Roque, are you ready? Okay, who is on the house now? Sino po ito? Okay, Governor Abdusakur M. Tan is on the house. Go ahead, Governor. Bakit niyo po tinututulan yung extension ng transition by another 3 years? Go ahead, Governor Tan. The floor is yours. Siguro po dahil nasa Mindanao sila na medyo liblib ang mga lugar kaya mahirap. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Governor Abdusakur M. Tan of the province of Sulu.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you po.
Magandang tanghali po.
Magandang
Wala
tapahan
po
po.
kami narinig kanina.
Okay po, okay. Go ahead po. Explain po bakit niyo po tinututulan ang deferment of election sa BARM by another 3 years. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much po, Secretary Harry Roque. Actually, tinututulan natin yan dahil yan po ang batas. Ang batas ay nagsasabi that the elections or the BTA, the term of the BTA would only be 3 years. And that 3 years would end in 2022. And that the elections would be synchronized. And therefore, it should be in 2022 together with the national and local elections. Now, ang inano natin, hindi sa ayaw natin sa mga taga-BARM or sa MILF. Ang gusto lang natin ngayon ay magkaroon ng mandato ang ating mga opisyal. Dahil sinasabi natin ay doon kay Presidente na it would be very awkward na for or officials in government offices, national offices, they have mandates because they occupy appointed positions. So they are appointed to their positions. Unlike the BARM officials, the positions would already be, the positions are elective positions. So the officials must also be elected. So yun po, actually, ang concern namin dito, paano na after this administration? Ano kaya ang mangyayari sa amin kung hindi namin hindi magkasundo ng mga bagong mga administrasyon? Sabihin na wala kayong mandato, di damay kami lahat kasi nasa BARM kami. Ang sinasabi lamang namin, in fact, nagka-meeting na kami ni Chief Minister Murad together with his team. In fact, I was invited alone to a dinner by the team of Chief Minister Murad at the night before the another meeting with mga before the convening of the Council of Leaders. So nag-meeting kami. Ang sabi ko sa kanila, wala tayong problema doon sa pamumuno. We will still support an MILF-led BARM government. So whether may eleksyon o walang eleksyon, so suportahan natin. So yun ang napag-usapan namin. But I would prepare kako na ito, we strengthen the position of the BARM officials. So to strengthen it, we have to have a mandate. Anyway, so suportahan namin sila sa eleksyon.
Okay.
Wala naman na ako kontra dyan. Susuportahan namin. Na,
Okay.
sabi ko,
Oo.
pag nag-postpone yan, na of course, nag-postpone, I will challenge it before the Supreme Court. Kasi mas gusto ko na magka-eleksyon tayo para malakas at matibay ang pamumuno ng ating mga BARM officials.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Governor. Because of Governor, because of lack of time, maraming salamat po, pero please stay on po dahil magkakaroon po tayo ng open forum with our colleagues in the Malacanang Press Corps. Pero for now po, can I call on Interim Chief Minister Murad? Chief Minister Murad, sa kabilang panig naman po, bakit po sa tingin ninyo justified na i-extend yung transition period ng BARM for another 3 years? The floor is yours, Chief Minister Murad.
Yes, good morning, sir, and good morning to everybody in Zoom. So, I'll be very, very brief in my direct to the point. We have been requesting for this extension. Unang-una po, nakikita natin na very short yung time na 3 years in order to restructure the government, yung Bangsamoro government. Kasi po, yung Bangsamoro government is not like just changing of leadership. Kailangan i-restructure natin ito because it is the structure of the government is parliamentary ministerial under a unitary na presidential unitary system. So medyo mahirap po yun. Pangalawa po is there was a delay in the budget of the BARM in the autonomous government. 2019 po, wala kami pong budget nang mag-assume kami. Yung remaining budget lang ng ARMM ang nagamit namin. Pero hindi na namin nagamit lahat dahil po sa wala nang panahon. So 2020 lang nagkaroon kami ng budget. So itong 2020, just 3 months after 2020, nagsimula na yung COVID-19 na pandemic. So instead of focusing on our task in the governance, and also kasi dalawa pong track itong naka-assign sa atin sa BTA. One is the political track, which is the setting up of the government, and then the other is the normalization track, which is the normalization of the situation in the area. So nalihis po yung ating attention sa pandemic. So marami tayong hindi nagawa na task natin. So kaya nga after 2020, nakita namin na talagang kulang yung wala na kaming time in order to implement yung iba pang mga task. So we requested an audience with the President. Nag-audience po kami sa kanya. And then sinabi namin na we are requesting for extension. Kasi hindi namin makaya because around 1 year ang nawala sa amin. So for the 3 years term, nakikita namin na very short pa rin yun in order to implement all the tasks of the BTA. So kaya ito ngayon ang na gusto namin na ma-extend. In the first meeting with the President, talagang he expressed his very strong support Sinabi niya sa amin, 100% na suportado ko kayo dyan. Dahil alam ko na 3 years is a very short period for a transition. So, nagsimula kami na pero sabi niya, hindi naman sa akin lang ang decision, it has to be the legislative branch. So, kaya we engage the Senate, we engage po yung Congress. So, after engaging, yun na nga, nagkaroon ng kwan na mayroong mga lumabas na dissenter, ayaw dun sa kwan, pag-extension, si Governor Sacol na-express naman yung kanyang kwan. So, last June 16, nagkaroon kami ng meeting. Ito yung last meeting before the June 24 na meeting with the President. Kasama rin ho yung mga governor at saka yung mga cabinet members. So itong June 16 na meeting, the President instructed us to convene the Council of Leaders. Para sabi niya, gusto ko yung magkasundo-sundo kayo. Hindi ko gusto, sabi niya na yung mayroon ayaw, mayroon I want everybody to na magkasundo kayo. So we convened the Council of Leaders meeting in June 23, yan po sa Grand Hyatt Ballroom sa Manila. Yes. So physically present ay 11 po. 8 at 3 po ang naka-Zoom. Ang umaten po is si Governor Amintal Bombit Anjong ng Lanao del Sur, si Governor Abdul Sakurtan, nag-attend po rin. Si Governor Ismail Mang Sali ng Tawi-Tawi, si Governor Hajiman Ataman Saliman ng Basilan, si Congressman Yasir Balindong, at si sa BARM po, ako at saka si Senior Minister Abdurrauf Makakwa.
Chief Minister Ibrahim, with all due respects po, no, because we have time constraint, can you just tell us kung ano po nangyari dun sa meeting na yan, and then we will proceed with the open forum na po.
Okay po. Noon sa meeting na yon ay 11 nga out of 17 ang nag-attend. So doon sa 11, 10 voted, expressed their in support of the extension. So nireport namin ito, it was only, to be very frank, it was only Governor Sacol na hindi po directly na nagsabi na he will support the extension, kasi nga yung ganon din niya yung mga reason niya, legal, merong mga legal na kwan. So out of the 11, 10 po ang nag-express ng support for the extension. So we reported this to the meeting of political leaders in the same day, doon din sa kwan na yun, headed by Secretary Lorenzana. So naibigay namin sa kanya yung resulta, and then last June 24, nagkaroon nga tayo ng meeting, kasama ho kayo sa meeting na yon, private meeting with the President. So nai-report din namin ito, yung resulta ng yung Council of Leaders meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yun lang po.
Oo.
Okay.
Chief Minister Ibrahim, pasensya na po kayo kasi talaga yung Malacanang press corps, they really want time also for the open forum, no? So anyway,
Okay po.
may isa pa pong issue. Ang isang legal issue that the President asked the Secretary of Justice and the Presidential Chief Legal Counsel to comment on is kung ipupuspone po ang halalan para sa Bangsamoro Authority, kinakailangan ba ho itong isumiti sa plebisito? Yung batas po kasi na bumuo ng Bangsamoro, authority ay bagamat it is an act of Congress, was submitted to a plebiscite by the people. No? Ang problema po, si Secretary of Justice ang sabi hindi kinakailangan, si Chief Legal Counsel ang sabi kinakailangan. So within the cabinet itself, two different opinions were expressed. And I think that was also one reason why the President said mag-neutral siya. He's asking Congress to consider all sides, and he has asked Congress to exercise its wisdom, no, kung kinakailangan talagang ma-extend o hindi yung transition. Punta na po tayo uli sa open forum. Mela Lesmoras, please.
Hi, good afternoon, Secretary Roque at sa ating mga guests. Secretary Roque, unahin ko lang po yung COVID-19 vaccination program coming from the statement of Mayor Binay at kayo na rin po. Secretary Roque, tanong ko lang din po, kasabay nga ng mga bagong supply na dumating sa bansa, paano po yung magiging distribution nito? At idagdag ko na lang din, para lang din assurance sa ating mga kababayan, paano po natin ini-ensure na hanggang nga sa pagtuturok ng bakuna ay talagang pinaghandaan at talagang safe and effective na maituturok yung bakuna sa ating mga kababayan?
Well, lahat po talaga ng ating mga bakunang binibigay sa ating taong bayan ngayon ay dumaan sa masusing pag-aaral sa Philippine FDA at saka po sa WHO, kung saan meron po silang tinatawag na emergency use list. No? So wala pong ibibigay sa inyo na hindi epektibo at hindi po ligtas. Now, yung mga bagong dumating po, meron na po tayong tinatawag na NCR plus 8 plus 10. No? So bibigyan po natin ng karagdagang bakuna yung mga lugar nito dahil nga po importante na mabigyan sila ng mas marami dahil nagkakaroon po sila ng surges. Pero mahigit kumulang, kalahati lang po yung ina-allocate natin dyan at yung kalahati will still go to the rest of the Philippines. No? Sa ngayon po, meron na tayong 17,445,470 doses of vaccines na dumating na po dito sa Pilipinas.
Opo. And I understand, Secretary Roque, kanina nabanggit niyo na rin po yung issue ng quarantine nung nawala po yung sa Zoom. Secretary Roque, tatanong ko lang po, may public, yung sinabi niyo pong IATF meeting, may public address po ba si Pangulong Duterte mamaya? At ibig sabihin po ba mamaya na maya-anunsyo yung bagong quarantine classifications for July?
This is the first time po kasi na i-discuss to ng IATF. May panahon pa naman kasi baka magkaroon po ng second talk to the people pa. Hindi po sigurado, no? Pero baka magkaroon pa ng second talk of the people within the week. No? So since this is the first time we're talking about the quarantine classification, magkakaroon po yan ng opportunity for the local government units to appeal before the recommendations become final to the President.
Opo. So sir, sorry, may talk to the people ngayon pero
Meron
meron
po.
pang second for the quarantine. Tama po, sir?
Meron pong talk to the people today but I'm not certain kung ma-announce na yung quarantine classification kasi yung initial meeting namin on quarantine classification mamaya pa lang po. So whatever the recommendations may be mamaya, subject to appeal pa po yan ng mga LGUs.
Opo. And for my final question, Secretary Roque, kasi nabanggit nga rin natin kanina na posibleng GCQ pa rin. Pero ang issue rin po kasi GCQ with some restrictions pa rin po dito sa Metro Manila. May chance kaya na maging ordinary GCQ na. At ang tanong lang po ng maraming nanay at tatay, yung mga bata po kaya na sobrang naiinip na yung iba na lulungkot yung mga bata na nasa bahay, may chance din kaya na magluwag na rin para sa mga bata, sa mga teenagers. Specifically dito sa
Well,
NCR.
ang possibility po, tinatanong mo kung may chance kung magiging regular GCQ, I would say may chance po yan, pero antayin na lang po natin ng anunsyo. Sa mga bata, manatili pong homeliners pa rin tayo dahil hindi pa po tayo nagbabakuna ng mga kabataan and we want to keep them safe together with the seniors. So yung mga seniors po na hindi pa rin bakunado, homeliners pa rin po tayo.
Okay, thank you so much po, Secretary Roque, at sa ating mga panauhin.
Thank you, Mela. Punta tayo kay Yusek Roque now.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary Roque, at good afternoon din po sa ating mga bisita. From Chris Jose of Remate Online, suportado ba ng Malacanang ang drive-thru vaccination project ni Vice President Leni? Makakatulong kaya ito para makamit ang population protection bago matapos ang taon? May nakikita bang risk ang gobyerno sa proyektong ito?
Well, unahin ko lang po, no, nung inanunsyo po ng Imus Cavite yung kanilang kauna-unahang drive-thru vaccination, sinuportahan po yan ng ating presidente kasi ang bakuna naman ay binili po ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas, administrasyon ni Presidente Duterte, at saka yung method ng pagbibigay, yung drive-thru, talaga naman po makakatulong to para mas maraming mabakunahan. So hindi po nagbabago ang posisyon ng Presidente dahil ito po isang pamamaraan na mapabigay sa ating kababayan yung bakuna na procured by the Duterte administration. We welcome of course this initiative after the initiative of IMUS. At lilinawin ko rin po, sabi po ng IMUS ay hindi lang po sa IMUS kasi this is in partnership with the private sector with Robinsons, no? So ang sabi po ng Robinsons at saka ng IMUS, matapos po ang IMUS, they have tapped also local governments of Bacolod, Iloilo, Tagum City, and Valencia in Bukidnon for future drive-thru initiatives. Lahat po yan, suportado ni Presidente because it is further means of bringing the vaccines to the people.
Opo. From Lay Alvis ng GMA News, for Mayor Abby Binay.
Wala na
Mayor?
po si Mayor Binay.
Okay.
Ang kasama na lang po natin ay si Chief Minister Murad at saka si Governor Tan.
Opo. Question from Severina Monte, para po kay Chief Minister Murad. In the event that polls are pushed through next year in BARM, will you run for a post? If ever, anong position?
Chief Minister, the question is directed to you. Ay, wala pong sound. Baka naka-mute.
Okay. Thank you. If there will be election, we will be kasi nga hindi namin natapos yung task, then we will be also running for the position of parliament member. Kasi ang pagbubutuhan lang sa BARM is yung parliament. Ang chief minister po ay ang boboto po ng chief minister ay yung mga nanalong member ng parliament. So kailangan lang na member ka ng parliament, and then the majority of the member of the parliament will elect who will be the chief minister. So I'm still opting to run for as member of the parliament. Yan po.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Secretary Roque.
Yes, punta tayo kay Trish Terada of CNN Philippines, please. Trish? Okay. What about Pia Gutierrez?
Hi sir, magandang hapon.
Go ahead, please.
Yes sir. Sir, the President said last Friday that he was open to arming civilian groups to help the government enforce the law. Could you explain the context of this statement, and how would the palace address concerns that this will lead to a rise in vigilante groups and that it would result in even more crimes?
Well, as you said, he's open to the idea. Pero wala pa naman pong finality, no? At siguro the best view expressed so far is the view of PNP Chief Eleazar, no, which I share, no, that kailangan intindihin naman natin na kapag ang mga volunteer groups ay merong banta sa buhay nila, meron din silang karapatan na depensahan ng kanilang mga buhay. Now, sabi nga po ni Chief PNP, we cannot allow these criminals, we cannot allow our volunteer groups to be at the mercy of criminal elements that we encourage them to fight alongside with us, no? So there's not a policy yet. I'm sure it will be subjected to full staff work. Pero meanwhile, may realidad na habang tumutulong ang mga volunteers, may banta rin sa kanilang mga buhay.
Pero sir, are there measures already in place to ensure that arming civilian groups would not lead to abuse? Kasi si Senator Lacson, he noted the cases, yung mga killer cops na Jonel Nuesca and Hensi Sinampan, and he asked that if our law officers who are supposed to be trained are prone to lapses, how much more in the case of untrained civilians?
You know, it's really speculative to discuss this kasi wala pa namang talagang policy on this, no? So let's not waste time speculating. Kapag naging pulisiya na yan, then I'm sure there will be the corresponding training to be given to everyone. Pero for now, it's speculative.
Alright, sir. Sir, on another topic, yung dun sa Sinovac, there are questions on the efficacy of Sinovac, particularly doon sa new variants of COVID-19, because in Indonesia, it was reported that at least 10 of the 26 doctors who died from COVID-19 had received both doses of Sinovac, so fully vaccinated na sila. So how do you address these concerns especially dun sa mga nabakunahan na ng Sinovac, especially since the government has repeatedly assured the public that getting both doses of vaccines can protect us from severe symptoms and death from COVID.
Ang pinaniniwalaan ko po pagdating dito, mga doktor. Sinabi po ni Dr. Solante at saka ni Dr. Sino pa itong isa? Dr. Solante and Lulu Brave and Dr. Salvania na lahat po ng ginagamit nating mga bakuna are equally effective against all variants. No? I know po na may isang politikong nagsabi na we should prioritize one brand over the other, pero that goes against po the opinions of experts. Ako naman po, abogado din ako, no? Wala akong alam dyan. So I will have to take the views of the doctors and the scientists in lieu of my personal opinion. Wala pong pagbabago ang opinion ng mga dalubhasa, ng mga doktor, na lahat po ng mga bakuna equally effective laban po sa lahat ng mga variants.
Sir, speaking of vaccine, si Presidente, was he able to get his second dose of vaccine na?
Well, as clarified by General Duterte, no, hindi pa po.
Pero, sir, what's keeping the President from getting his second dose?
I do not know po. It could be because alam ko nagpa-test na siya sa antibodies niya, mataas daw. No? But anyway, I don't know. We will just
Pero,
be speculating.
Opo, don't you think that this runs counter to the government's messaging that people should get their second dose to be fully protected against COVID, especially with the risk ng Delta variant?
No, because I'm not saying he will not have his second dose. No, he just has not had his second dose.
Sir, last na lang kasi marami po naghahanap sa Pangulo noong Sabado. Nasaan po siya at bakit hindi siya nag-attend ng Libing ni Pinoy?
Nandito lang po siya sa Manila. No? In-explain ko na po yan na nung Huwebes matapos po ang meeting namin with the BARM officials and parehong Governor Tan and Chief Minister were there as well. Tinigil na nga niya yung aming discussion at 11 p.m. kasi sabi niya gusto niyang pumunta doon sa lamay ni dating Presidente Noynoy Aquino. Sinabi pa niya in public, Noynoy was a friend, not a close friend but a friend. I supported him in the 2010 elections. Pero hindi ko sinuportahan yung kanyang successor. No? So he wanted to go but he was informed that the urn of the former president had already been moved to the private residence in time. So hindi na po nakapunta doon si Presidente.
Pero nung libing, sir?
Hindi ko na po alam kung bakit. No? It could be because it's pandemic, no? And we're trying to limit the numbers and of course the presence of the president would encourage crowds. No?
Pero there were efforts naman, sir, from the
Yes.
President or the OP to extend their condolences directly to the family.
There was a personal conversation with members of the family. There were offers for the family to have all the honors that the Republic can give to a former president. But of course, the palace had to bow to the wishes of the family for a more subdued ceremonies. No? Although, as everyone saw, he was accorded full military honors befit of a president. Ang sabi ko nga, hindi ko na naalaala kasi yung honors which we bestowed on former President Cory Aquino, pero parang sabi ko nga, mas moving nga yung ating military honors compared to the honors in the UK. No? I thought ours was more solemn and more dignified and more moving.
Sir, last na lang phone-in question. The Financial Action Task Force has placed the Philippines on its gray list or jurisdictions under increased monitoring after failing to address strategic deficiencies in their regimes to counter money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. Your reaction to this?
Well, wala pong countermeasures imposed. So wala pa pong desisyon. Ibig sabihin lang nito, increased monitoring. No? At tayo naman po ay nangako na ipatutupad yung ating action plan kasama po nung pag-amenda ng passage ng yung anti-money laundering at saka CTF laws, yung enhancement ng ating AMF at CTF supervisory framework, reinforcement of money laundering and terrorism financing investigation and prosecution, and campaigns to increase public awareness. So wala pa pong desisyon. They will monitor our progress. So we have not been put under any negative list. Pareho pa rin po tayo, but they want to see further improvements.
Alright, sir. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Pia. Let's go back to you, Roque, please.
Yes, Secretary, hindi po nakapasok sa Zoom si Trish Tarada ng CNN Philippines. So itatanong ko na lang po yung tanong niya. Yung first question po niya, nasagot niyo na
Wait,
na...
nandito ata
yung-
si Trish. Nandito na siya. Trish,
Okay.
are you here? Wala na rin daw. Okay, go ahead. Tanong mo na lang.
Yung first question niya, nasagot niya na po about dun sa wake ni former President Noynoy Aquino. Second question niya, Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Ping Lacson said arming civilian and anti-crime groups is dangerous as it is prone to abuses. Has the President thought over his idea of arming the anti-crime volunteer groups?
It's an idea. As I said, it is not yet policy. I'm sure all these views will be taken into consideration.
Okay, yung third question po niya, Secretary, ay nasagot niyo na rin about sa Global Money Laundering Watch List, inclusion of Philippines. Thank you, Secretary.
Punta naman tayo kay Melo Acuña.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Unang tanong po ay para sa inyo. Binanggit po kasi dun sa Financial Action Task Force statement na kailangan paigtingin yung kampanya laban sa terrorism finance. Would we have specific projects or programs to stall whatever financing for terrorist groups in the Philippines?
Well, obviously po, yung CPP-NPA na terrorist group, no, meron pa rin pondo. So kinakailangan talaga isarado natin kung saan nanggagaling yung mga pondo nila. So this is also to the benefit of the Republic. And we agree that more efforts have to be exerted para talaga mawalan ng pondo yung mga teroristang yan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. May tatanong po sana ako doon sa dalawang panauhin natin.
Go ahead, please.
Chief Minister at kay Governor.
Go ahead,
magandang
please.
hapon po, Chief Minister and Governor Sakurtan. My question has something to do with the report released by the World Bank last June 15 about undernutrition. Sinasabi po na ang pinakamataas na undernutrition ay nasa BARM. At sinasabi rin na 58% ng mga mamamayan ay hindi makabili ng masustansyang pagkain ayon sa report ng World Food Program Philippines Office. Sa ganito pong pagkakataon, meron po ba kayong programa to address poverty and undernutrition in the BARM? That's my first question for you, Minister, Chief Minister.
Well, unang-una po, talaga pong isa sa malaking programa namin is to address health, medical and health care. So, yun po ang una. Anim po ang aming priority. Then pangalawa po is yung education na talagang pupunduhan namin ng Then pangatlo po is yung pong food and food security. So pang-apat po is strategic infrastructure. So pang-lima is on social services.
Mm-hmm.
So, yun po ang priorities namin. And ito po, simula sa pagkuha namin, we allocated more budget on those 6 priorities. So, patuloy po ang aming plan. Sa polio pa, ano yung tanong ninyo?
Sinasabi po kasi na 58% ng mga mamamayan ng BARM ay hindi makabili ng masustansyang pagkain. So it has something to do with poverty.
Yes po. So yan nga, ang kasama sa i-address natin. So, kaya ang isa sa malaking budget namin is social services para ma-address naman yung because in reality talaga ay medyo mababa yung problema namin is really poverty.
Apo. Nabanggit po kasi ninyo na yung budget ninyo ay 2020 na yata dumating. Ano po ba yung nadatngan ninyo noong ARMM na natungo sa BARM? May pera pa po ba yung regional offices na saklaw ng ARM before it got to be BARM?
Mayroon pong pera pero lahat yung pera is naka-program na po. So hindi na namin pwedeng i-revise yung program. So naka-program na po yun ng ARMM. Yun ang kwan. So wala po kami nagagamit noon na program namin. Yes.
Salamat po, Chief Minister. And we have an invitation for you for Monday. No? We will talk about it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Opo.
Yes,
Para po kayo sa Kurtan, Governor, pahabol ko po sa inyo, binabanggit po kasi na kailangan magkaroon ng tighter border control. Kayo po yung nasa Sulu, next to Tawi-Tawi. Have you been monitoring people coming in from Malaysia and Indonesia into the Philippines? Dahilan sa ang sabi, kailangan na mahigpit ang ating borders para maiwasan ang pagpasok ng iba pang may karamdaman. Governor Sakurtan, please. Governor Sakurtan,
Please,
I hope you're still there.
ulit, Melo.
Opo, Governor,
Ano po ang question nyo?
yung border control sa pagitan ng Malaysia, ng Indonesia at ng Pilipinas, kayo po yung nasa Sulu at katabi lang ng Tawi-Tawi. Meron po ba kayong efforts to check on people coming in from the southern backdoor?
Of course, we have the security sector, including the Philippine Coast Guard, the Philippine Maritime na police natin, and then yung Philippine Navy natin, except siguro baka kulang ang assets nila. Kasi archipelagic ang mga bayan natin, so kailangan natin ng mas maraming assets. So, but meantime, even local governments are also monitoring entries of mga watercrafts sa mga shores nila. So, yan ang natin ginagawa natin. Now, I just would like to go back to the matter yung sinasabi ninyo na paano yung mga nahihirapan na mga tao. Tama yun. Para makabili, dapat ibaba natin ang incidence of poverty dito sa ating region at sa mga probinsya, dito sa BARM. And to do that, we have to have a regular government. And kasi ngayon, ang poverty incidence sa BARM ay more than 70%. Ang national average is less than 20%. So more than 3 times ang natin, ang incidence of poverty dito sa atin. So kung ang government natin ay hindi regular, ay medyo alanganin ang mga programa natin. Kaya yun ang hinihingi natin, na maging very regular tayo at saka maging strong ang position natin dyan sa BARM. So yan po. Now going back doon sa mga natin, sa yung sa border patrol, meron naman yan na nagbabantay ang Philippine Navy, Philippine Coast Guard, yung Maritime, Police Maritime, at sabi ko nga, yung local government natin ay nagbabantay rin, including mga barangay officials.
Mangangailangan po ba kayo ng suporta mula sa Department of Health upang ma-testing yung mga pumapasok sa ating nasasakupan?
Actually, dito sa Sulu, ginagawa po natin yan. Kanya-kanyang may mga protocol yan, at yung national protocol, consistent tayo ron sa national. And of course, yung mga municipal ay binibigyan natin ng instruction na itong gawin ninyo. At nagmo-monitor. So sa tulong ng Philippine National Police, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine Coast Guard, the Maritime, the barangay, maraming barangay tanod na nagbabantay. Kaya wala tayong problema. Actually, walang problema sa mga entries at monitor natin.
Maraming salamat po. Congratulations. Ang ganda ng internet connection nyo. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Melo.
Okay.
Salamat po, Secretary Hani. Thank you.
Thank you, Melo. Let's go back to you, Sec. Roque, please.
Yes, Secretary, from Heidi Sampang of DZAS, may mukhahin na magpatupad na rin ang travel ban ng ating pamahalaan sa bansang Indonesia kung saan mataas ngayon ang mga kaso ng Delta variant. Similar question with Rosalie Cos of UNTV.
I'm sure that will be considered by the IATF po.
Opo. Second question niya, dahil malapit lang ang Indonesia sa Pilipinas, may paghihigpit ba sa backdoor entry point sa Mindanao para hindi makalusot ang mga mas nakakahawang strain ng COVID-19?
Dati na pong mahigpit yan, no? Mula nung nagsimula ang pandemya. Lahat po ng repatriation ngayon ng mga Pilipino from that area, no? Hindi lang Indonesia, kasama na rin po sa Sabah, have to be organized repatriation po.
Opo. Yung third question niya ay, hindi ako sure, Secretary, kung nasagot niyo na kasi po nagloko yung internet. Mayroong 12 doctor sa Indonesia na namatay pa rin sa COVID-19 kahit fully vaccinated na sa Sinovac. Sa palagay niyo makakaapekto ito sa lalo sa ating vaccine hesitancy ng ating mga kababayan, lalo na daw po sa Chinese brands ng bakuna?
Hindi po, kasi unang-una, ang Sinovac po, aprobado hindi lang ng Philippine FDA, aprobado rin po yan ng WHO. No? Pangalawa, sa dami naman po ng mga Chino na yan ang ginamit, hindi naman po natin nakikita na nangyayari ito. Hindi pa po natin alam kung bakit namatay yung 10 doktor na yan, pero hayaan muna nating pag-aralan ng mga dalubhasa yan. Meanwhile, dahil ako po hindi doktor, dinalagay ko po ang aking sampalataya sa mga ekspertong nagsasabi, ang Sinovac po, gaya ng lahat ng binibigay natin, ay ligtas at epektibo.
Opo. Question from Sam Edenilla of Business Mirror, may naging action na kaya si President Duterte sa possible extension of Bayanihan 2 and the passage of Bayanihan 3?
Well, ang Bayanihan 3 po, wala pa talagang action po yan dahil gusto nga malaman muna ng ating economic team kung ilan pa yung natitira sa 2020 budget, sa 21 budget, at saka kung ilan pa yung natitira sa Bayanihan 2. Yung extension ng Bayanihan 2, well, I have no advice yet, pero kung napansin nyo po, balita kanina na 9 billion out of 18 billion na unobligated have been released, no, by the DBM. So kalahati na po ng 18 billion na-obligate na po. No? So mukha naman pong miski umabot tayo sa end of the month, kaya namang i-obligate yung remaining 8 billion na lamang po na natitira sa Bayanihan 2. So antayin po natin.
Okay. Second question po niya, will there be a scheduled talk between President Duterte and US President Joe Biden next month? If yes, ano po ang issues that will be discussed?
I can only recall what Ambassador Babes Romualdez said, na the first possible meeting could be in the US-ASEAN ano tawag doon? US-ASEAN Summit, no? To be held in Brunei.
Okay. Question from NJ Blanca Flor of Daily Tribune. Can the government assure the public that there will be no more rotational brownouts in Luzon following President Duterte's meeting with NGCP officials last week?
Okay, thank you for that question. Unfortunately, I was not in that meeting, but I've been given extensive briefing, no, by those who were present. Ang bottom line, sinabi ni Presidente, ayaw kong magkaroon ng rotational brownouts. Ang sagot naman ng NGCP, kinumpir po yan sa isang voltage regulator. No? They have the power to purchase power, they have the legal basis to purchase power, pero it is only to promote stability of the grid. It is not to provide further supply to the grid kasi NGCP nga po sila. No? So, ang sabi naman ng NGCP, it is a supply problem. Kulang daw po talaga ang supply. And yung kanilang ancillary authority to purchase power is only to provide stability on the grid. So, pero ang sabi po ni Presidente, I don't want rotational brownouts. And I will also confirm that the President did raise the issue of an SSS property of around 6 hectares in Pasay, which was expropriated by NGCP. And I confirm that the officials of the NGCP could not justify why they went for expropriating 6 hectares land when all they needed was 2,000. But they apparently gave the President an assurance that they would not proceed with that particular expropriation in Pasay. So yun po yung suma total ng nakuha kong impormasyon. Itago na lang po natin sa pangalang Secretary Maynard Guevara yung nagbigay sa akin ng briefing kung ano nangyari sa meeting na yan.
Okay, second question po. Should the NGCP worry that it may lose its concession agreement to operate the grid if it will not abide by the provisions of its contract with the government?
Well, I think Secretary Cusi has made that warning. But ang sabi nga po sa aking bubuit, no, ang sagot naman po ng NGCP is their legal authority to purchase power is not to provide further supply. It is only to promote stability of the grid. No? So, yun po. But Secretary Cusi has made that warning.
Opo. From John Punsalan of ABS-CBN Online, when President Duterte daw po sent a short message during a convention of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines on Saturday, some NUPL members changed their profile picture with the phrase, "Stop the attacks on lawyers and judges."
Ano po ang tanong?
Yun lang po yung ano niya. Does the President
Anyway,
know? Opo.
Wala pong reaksyon si Presidente. Alam niyo naman, kung kaliligaya ng mga NUPL yun, di hayaan natin, di naging maligaya sila. I don't know what that achieved, but if that made them happy, well and good.
Does the President know about this, and how did he react? What do you make of criticism that the administration has supposedly not done enough to stop attacks on judges and lawyers?
Well, hindi po alam ni Presidente yan because it was pre-recorded. But now that I found out about it, I feel somehow bad because I was instrumental in providing that message. Request po yan ng IBP President, and I made sure that the President would make this tape. So I feel kind of bad that yung accommodation ng Presidente was met by this kind of action. No? Now, before making the recording, sinabi nga niya na medyo masama ang loob niya sa IBP because of a past incident. Pero nonetheless, he proceeded to record a message, no? Because he knows that the IBP is still the association of all lawyers, no? His fellow lawyers. No? So sa akin, well, the President did not know about it. He probably does not care. But I personally feel that since I was instrumental in making that record, hindi ko maintindihan kung ano yung kaligayahan na makukuha ng mga NUPL lawyers na yan. Now, have we addressed the killings of lawyers and judges? Of course we are. Abogado po ang ating Presidente at talaga naman pong ang kanyang utos, lahat ng mga pinatay, lalong-lalo ng mga abogado at mga maestrado, kinakailangan maimbestigahan at kinakailangan maparusahan mga pumapatay sa kanila.
Question from Joseph Morong of GMA News. Can you give us the percentage of those vaccinated in NCR and then the provinces out of the target? And there's consistently low number of COVID cases in NCR. New cases dropped by 9%. Would you already attribute it to vaccination? If not, where?
Yung datos na hiningi mo, I don't have it. Kasi ang aking pakiusap sa inyo, if you have factual questions, give it to me ahead of time so I can get the answer because I don't have all the facts with me. Pero can we attribute the decline in cases to vaccination? Let's just say the vaccination, because some cities are close to reaching 70% na po of vaccinating their people. Let's just say that the vaccination already has some impact but probably is not responsible for the decline. Sa tingin ko po yan, sa patuloy pa rin yung mask, hugas sa iwas at patuloy nating prevention, detection, isolation, and treatment. Kaya po napababa natin ang kaso sa Metro Manila. At kaya nga po, the lesson for all the areas with surges, hindi po gamot ang bakuna kinakailangan pa rin mask, hugas, iwas, prevention, detection, isolation, and treatment.
Last question, Secretary Roque. May tanong lang po si Joseph Ramos of Business Mirror Sports. Any situation or status about the application of the PBA to open its season 46 this July?
Joseph, talaga miss na miss mo na ang PBA. Wala. Wala pa po akong balita, but I will inquire for you. Okay.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay. Salamat po. Dahil wala na po tayong mga katanungan, I'd like to thank our guests, of course, si Interim Chief Minister Ahod Alhaj Murad B. Ibrahim, our Governor of Sulu, Abdusakur M. Tan, and previously earlier, our Philippine Ambassador to Canada, Attorney Rodolfo Robles, and as well as my kapatid, Makati Mayor Abby Binay. Maraming salamat din sa iyo, Yusek Roque. Sa ngalan po ng ating Presidente, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, ito po ang inyong spokes Harry Roque nagsasabi, Pilipinas, narito na po ang mga bakuna, wala nang dahilan para hindi po tayo magpabakuna. Ito po ay maging proteksyon hindi lamang para sa ating mga sarili, kundi lalong-lalo na sa ating mga mahal sa buhay. Good afternoon, Philippines.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.